Downtown Greensboro is an eclectic mix of galleries, shops, theaters, and restaurants. The real jewel there, the International Civil Rights Center and Museum, is housed in an old Woolworth department store building.
The International Civil Rights Center Museum is located in the building that once served as the F.W. Woolworth store, a department store right here in the heart of downtown Greensboro. And it was here in 1960 that 4 young students from the Agricultural and Technical College of North Carolina came and requested to be served at an all-whites lunch counter. And so these were young persons during the era of Jim Crow, 17 and 18-year-old freshmen who decided to take the weight of Jim Crow on their shoulders and wrestle it to the ground. And so they came here and requested to be served. And as a result of that, they inspired several other students the next day, the next weeks, the next months. And after a 6-month struggle, the segregated lunch counters in this building became integrated. And of course, all throughout the segregated South, students were inspired to take action. Those students were black and white, male, female, Christian and Jew. They were persons who believed that they could, through their work, expand equality, justice, hope, understanding, indeed, freedom for all Americans.
We are at the lunch counter of the International Civil Rights Center Museum, formerly the F.W. Woolworths, and this counter is the epicenter. It is the heart and soul of this museum because it was at this spot that the Greensboro sit-ins took place on February 1st, 1960, exactly 52 years ago today.
Of course, by Jim Crow, we're referring to the segregationist traditions of the day. There were many traditions in which races were separated. Sometimes blacks and whites would enter the same building but use separate entrances. Sometimes blacks and whites would go to a public place, and there would be the restaurant in the front for whites, there would be the kitchen in the middle, and then there would be a little area, eating area for blacks in the back, or colored as the term was used at that time. So this strict separation of the races was found in many different institutions. In the theaters, African Americans had to sit in the balcony. So there are all of these traditions with these various public places where there was an insistence on the separation of the races when blacks and whites utilized the same facility.
Now, I read that they were allowed to buy things in the store, but then when they tried to eat lunch, they were not allowed to.
They were denied the access of eating at the lunch counter.
So the laws didn't prohibit them from purchasing from the store, only from eating in the store.
Correct, exactly. Their money was good for the retail purchases, but for the food, it was a different story. And they wanted to make a change and make sure that they were able to have access to every part and have the same rights as everyone else.
Wonderfully designed, simple lines and wood. It's just, the colors are perfect. Lighting, everything about the design elements of this building are just impressive. What would you like to achieve through having this museum here? What do you hope to achieve?
Well, the International Civil Rights Center and Museum is an historic landmark. It is an exhibiting and a collecting institution, and it is an educational service organization. On the one hand, while we focus on the efforts of African Americans to secure their rights as citizens of this country, hence civil rights, we are not stuck in the past. We want this museum to actively engage all persons in understanding that everyone has rights, and we need to be vigilant of civil rights in the 21st century.
How can you work every single day with the history that took place here? I expected it to be like so solemn and quiet and everyone, serious, but you guys are all so upbeat and happy.
I think it's because even though the efforts were serious, just the sheer history and the impact that it had on this nation, in this city and across the nation, that's what gives us our passion. It gives us our vibrancy because we are carrying on the legacy that they started 52 years ago, and even prior to that as well. We are carrying on their legacy, and that gives us pride and happiness for what they stood for.
And we hope that looking at stories of the past and looking at stories of the present, we can envision a country and a world that is free of discrimination, free of prejudice, and expands the idea of social justice, equality, and indeed freedom for everyone.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. I appreciate you giving us the civil rights movement marks an important time in American history. An important part of it started right here in Greensboro.